Hey, welcome everyone to the ArchiCAD User Group Hangout. So this is a new experiment in terms of me reaching out to the ArchiCAD community. I am using a tool called Google Hangouts and a management tool called Webinar Jam to be able to share this with you. This is the first time I'm actually using that combination of tools to have this user group online hangout. Now, what is this about? This is a way that I'm going to be giving some of my expertise as a gift to the ArchiCAD community. I think many of you know that I've been working with ArchiCAD for a very long time, since 1989, so that would be 25 years this year. As a reseller, as a trainer and consultant, and more recently as an online personality, let's just say. So I've been developing ArchiCAD tutorials for my YouTube channel, which I'm sure many or most of you are familiar with, as well as for my paying customers, the Best Practices course. Now what I'm going to be doing is adapting the approach that I've taken with the Best Practices course of having a coaching program where I answer questions, how to apply ArchiCAD in practice, and basically just answering your questions. But I'll do that as a free service once a month. This will be an opportunity for you to send in questions, get my help. We'll spend an hour, possibly a little bit more today on that. I'll also, I think you should be able to see the chat as we're running, and so you'll be able to talk to each other a little bit. I'm going to be able to look at that afterward. I'll just be glancing at it from time to time. But my intention is to build our sense of community. From time to time we'll have guests presenting with me. Last fall I had Jared Banks and Apollos Biliotos, two well-known ArchiCAD experts, hang out with me, along with a couple of other people to talk about ArchiCAD, but this is going to be a little different. This is going to be coaching, helping you use ArchiCAD. So let's let me just see. I have an outline here. Before we actually get into the coaching, I wanted to show you something else that I've set up to help build our community. So I reserved the domain ArchiCADusergroup.com as a way to build our community worldwide. So it's a resource for ArchiCAD users. It's in development. I've just started setting it up, but there are already a few things that you can do if you would like to connect with it. So you can go to ArchiCADusergroup.com, read a little bit about what this is set up for. You can log in or register here. So let me just log out, so I'm pretending that I'm coming fresh. So I can log in or register on this page, and I can look for the member list. Now if I'm not logged in, you can see that it says that I need to log in or register. So I can go here. Now to register, all you do is you put in your first and last name and email, and if you're already done that, then you can log into the site by putting in your email address and the password that you're going to be given or that you change afterward. So I'll log in. Now that I'm logged in, I can go to the member list, and now we can see members. I click on people's names. You can see how it expands and shows some additional information. Here we have, in terms of Ian, put some information in his biography. So you can put in as much information as you like, and contact information here. Perhaps your LinkedIn or other ways that people can reach you. Now, in addition, you can search by category, say all the ones who have ArchiCAD 17, and that's a shorter list here, or all the ones who are, let's say, an architect, as opposed to a builder or a designer, things like that. If you want to get back to the original list, you click on Member List here. Okay, now the jobs board is one that is going to be growing. I basically, in my pseudonym, I put in that I am offering employment and offering contract work, and so then one can look here and I can have information about the job and how to contact me, etc. So this is going to be available for free as just a way to grow our community. And you can see also that the coaching hangouts, this is just a description of what we're doing today. I'm going to be talking about BIM services as an announcement a little later on today. So I have some announcements at the end of the call. Let's get on to ArchiCAD Coaching, and let's see, I have my question here. I want to talk about Marquee stretch that Tim Ball asked me about. This is really a beginner question, but even though Tim is an expert, he had just forgotten one key part of it. So the question is, how would you stretch this building using the Marquee tool? So if I use the Marquee tool, draw a box around this area, and then click on any element within it, I can then move this around, and if I do it in a straight line like this, you'll see how it just stretches the building very naturally. I'm going to undo that and try it again where I do it more precisely. I'll click here and move it, and you see the tracker allows me to say, type in, I want it to be 5 foot longer. So we can type in that value. Now, you notice it was only modifying this area. If I drew the marquee around the larger area and did the same operations, it'll affect all the parts that are included. So the rule is that any endpoint of a wall or corner point of a polygon, like a slab or a roof or a fill, will be affected, whereas the other end will not. So this wall right here, both ends were part of it, so it essentially dragged, and same with this one. But the ones at the bottom here and the top, the second time, stretched. So it's very natural and intuitive to do that. Now, a variation of that is very, very useful is I've sketched this out, and maybe I had some things drawn precisely, and then I sketched out a little concept, and then said, all right, well, that's pretty good, but I don't want it to be an odd measurement. So I go to the measure tool, and I click here, and I click here, and it says, oh, I'm at 31 feet and a fraction inches. Maybe I want it to be 30 feet even, or 31 feet 6, or something like that. Well, how would I make that happen? Well, let's say that I only wanted to affect this area here, not the upper part. When I click on this, I can make it shorter. So I could make it this way, but I could take it all the way back to here. Now, I would never really want to do that. That would collapse the right-hand wall onto the left. But I can type in a distance, for example, 31-6, so 31 feet 6 inches. And instead of saying that I want to go 31 feet 6 inches in the direction I'm going, which is to the left, or 180 degrees, I'll type in a minus, and it'll go back the other way. So now, when I hit Enter, it places it precisely at, I use the measure tool here, 31 feet 6. So the rule here is that I have to have the Marquee tool active, a marquee drawn, and nothing selected, so no hotspots, no handles. Click on a point within this rather than a point that's on empty space. If it's empty space, you can adjust the position of the marquee. Point on a place that ArchiCAD recognizes with a check mark or a Mercedes, click. Now you're starting a stretch command. In this case, I want to go back to my reference point here, and then instead of just clicking or typing in how far I want to go that way, I type in the offset. Maybe I want it to be 29 feet. Now, if I do 29 dash, you'd think that would be subtracting it, but actually ArchiCAD, if you're using US measurements, is waiting to see if you're going to type 29 feet 6 or 29 feet 2 or 29 feet 0. So if I do a 0 and then a dash, then it'll go back 29 feet, and that'll give me the value that I want. So if I have a whole value and I'm working in feet and inches, I have to type in -0 dash, or I can leave out the 0. So I can go back, I can go and start this again here, and let's say I want it to be 30 feet even, I can do 30 minus minus, and then enter. Now you notice that it calculated how far it had to go. Remember, I had done 29 feet, now it's 30, so it says, all right, you have to move 1 foot. But that would have been easy to figure out, but in many cases, you're just doing it sort of approximately. In other words, if I wanted this length here, how far is this? Well, it is 23 feet 7. Maybe I want it to be 24 feet. So I'll just type in 24 minus minus and enter, and that'll make it 24 feet. Now the marquee could be thin, which would mean it would affect only the current story, or thick, which would affect multiple stories. And if you're working in metric, you don't have to worry about that extra minus. You just do a single dash to do that. Okay, and question comes in, does it work with all elements like beams and leaning columns? I don't have time to demonstrate all of the variations, but elements that are discrete, like an object, a chair, or a toilet, will move. If there are any hot spots or any of their handle points are within the marquee, they will drag. They will not get longer or shorter. Elements that are polygon or linear based, such as walls, slabs, roofs, or lines, will stretch if only one endpoint is part of it, or certain endpoints or node points are included. If you have windows or doors, I believe that they will drag if they're totally enclosed, and if you only have one side of it enclosed, I think they'll stay still. So you can experiment with that, but they will not deform. You won't stretch windows or doors. Okay, so that's first of the quick beginner questions. Let's look at some additional questions here. Where do I find? Now, I get these questions frequently. So Larry Zuze, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, Zuze or Zuze, asked, where do I find the lamps? Well, he was, I'm guessing, clicking in the object tool, let's say objects, double-clicking, and trying to find lamps. Now, you will not find lamps in here because lamps are not an object in terms of ArchiCAD's terminology. You will find them under the lamp tool. So if we go to the lamp tool here, that's where we'll find them. So sometimes people go into the object tool expecting to find lamps. Now, if you were, another question that came up was, where do I find pocket doors? Okay, so if I go to the door tool, and I'm not quite sure where to look. Now, this is going to be different if you're outside the U.S., but in the U.S. it's organized in this fashion with wood doors and wood entrance doors and wood internal doors. But there is a way to search. Now, in ArchiCAD maybe 15 or 16, it became simpler. You'd have this little area you can type in. So I can type in pocket, hit enter, and there's pocket doors. So here's a pocket door like this. In addition, we have some access to pocket doors that are out on the internet that you could download from Graphisoft, some of the sites that make this available from Graphisoft or other services there. Now, if you were in a version before ArchiCAD 15 or something, then you'd have the same search ability by, there would be something down on the left side that would say look by folder or look by keyword, and you'd choose keyword, and then you could type in something like pocket. So that's another thing that can be useful here. Next question related to where to find this is where to find the renovation palette. I'm trying to remember who asked me that today, but under the window menu, palettes, and we have renovation. Okay, so if it's a palette, you'll find it there. Now, it's possible, and this person was saying, I've looked everywhere, I can't find it. It's possible that it wasn't in the palettes menu. Why? Because maybe they had their work environment set up incorrectly. Now, how could that happen? Your work environment, under the options menu, work environment command, allows you to set up your menus. And so the menus can be customized. Right now you can see that we've got File, Edit, View, Design, these menus here. And under, let's say, the window menu, if I double-click it, here's the palette menu. And if I double-click that, here's the palettes. And, we have the renovation palette is somewhere in here. Show hide renovation. I guess I can make this wider to show that. So this is the way the menu is set up, and you can add or take away or readjust menus as you wish. But if, instead of having the standard ArchiCAD 17 commands, you had something that was imported from a previous version of ArchiCAD, then you might not have all your commands or all the palettes available. So that's something that perhaps was affecting this person. I've seen this happen many times where you install ArchiCAD. It says, you have a custom environment from your current ArchiCAD. Do you want to import it? If you say yes, you may be able to bring across something useful, but in general, it's a little risky because you may not have the standard menus. So I would suggest that you go into the work environment, go to the command layout schemes and go to the standard commands and apply that scheme, and then say OK, and you'll get all the standard menus. So another question we have here, the pet palette, for this is from Craig Wilson. So if I'm drawing something, actually that's, so if I select an element here and I press down on it, we can see that there's the pet palette. Now, depending upon what you click on, you'll have different appearances of that pet palette. Now, it used to be that it was called the pet palette because as you moved around on screen, it would follow you like a pet on a leash. Now you notice how it's sort of sitting in one place. That's actually a preference under the options work environment. It would be under probably on-screen options. Let's see. Where is it? Maybe it's under tracker and coordinate input. Here, wondering where that is. More options. There's something in here about the pet palette, on-screen options here, where you can say how you want the, oh, here's dialog boxes and palettes. This is where it is. Pet palette movement, jump to preferred position. So if I said follow cursor, then as I move this, you'll see that the pet palette is moving with me. It's sort of following as if I was on a leash. It was on a leash here. So that's a way that you can get it back if it's not showing. We can go back to that work environment and the pet palette. Let's see, it was under dialog boxes and palettes, and put it back to jump to preferred position. Now, sometimes people have a preferred position that's off screen or sort of in a funny place where you don't notice it. So if I have the preferred position, I can move this palette somewhere that maybe I find convenient. Now it's going to stay there. But suppose it was down, you know, like over here. I might not even notice it because it's hidden. It's sort of, you know, camouflage. So look around for it. You may just have to move it back to some convenient place here. Okay, so next one for beginner questions. Pink haze or red aura. Who knows what that is? Let me just draw a roof here. Let's say, draw a roof on this building here, and go to 3D, and we'll maybe select this roof, and we'll make it up at 10 feet here, and zoom in on it. Okay, so that's sort of a normal view of the building. Go to the View menu, on-screen view options. You notice there's something called trimming bodies. There are no other on-screen view options available in the standard 2D ones, but trimming bodies and hidden morph geometry are two in 3D that you can turn on or off. I'll turn on trimming bodies, and guess what? Now I have this sort of haze, this sort of, you know, thing going around here. And right now it's sort of simple, but if you had a lot of elements on there, it might get a little complicated. And I've had many questions saying, how do I turn this darn thing off? Because you can't actually select it. Now what it is showing is how far out the roof would trim. In this case, the roof here is set for the trimming body under the model here to be out to the contours of the roof. That means out to as far as the roof extends, as opposed to the pivot lines, which would be the reference lines or the pivot lines of the roof, often which are on top of the wall. If I do that, then you can see how this is showing that it's only going to trim things. It won't, if there's a wall that sticks out beyond that, it wouldn't even trim it if you did a connection operation. So sometimes it's good to be able to see what that is or adjust it visually, but turn it off this way. There. Okay. Now, move on to some design and modeling questions. So the next one up here, we'll be placing a window in a stairwell, inserting it into lower and upper wall. This came from Jeff Robinson. Thank you for submitting that, Jeff. So let me just quickly go back here. Let me get rid of the roof right now, and we'll put a second floor on this. So I'll just maybe make it simple here. I'll select these walls, copy, go up to the second floor, and paste. here, and maybe we'll just put this into construction document views. So now if I let me just make sure make it so that on the second floor it's a little different. So I'm going to get rid of these two walls, and let me show the first floor. So I'll say show as trace reference, and now you can see what I've got. I'm going to select these two walls and have them meet here, so we can see that on the second floor we've just got a simple box, and on the first floor it extends further. Just wanted to show, just something a little different there. Now let's say that we had a staircase going up. So I'll go to the stair tool here, and we'll open up the stair tool and take maybe a U-shaped. So take a U-shaped stair like this, and I'll rotate this around like that, and we'll just pop this in. What's the height? So the overall height, 10 feet. Let's see, or actually right now we're on the second floor. I'm going to change it down to the first floor, and we'll say that it's 10 feet from story to story. I think that's probably good. So let me go down to the first floor here, and I'll pop this in here. So I got it almost precisely into the corner there, and I'll just drag this down to here. So now if I go to 3D, we should see something here. By the way, the shortcut that I'm using for rotating like this, the orbit, is pressing down the center mouse button, which allows me to pan, and then adding the shift key, which instantly switches me into orbit mode. When I let go, I'm in that new position. Now, suppose we want to have, let me just select this and we'll turn off the railings on here. I'm just going to make it simple and turn off the railings on all sides, because it's not our primary concern. So we'll just have a very simple little structure. And say I wanted to pop in a window here. So if I pop in a window in this wall, well, that's obviously going to have a problem because it's, whoops, I guess I have to finish popping it in. Here, it's obviously going to have a problem because it's below the stairwell. So let me raise it up here so that it would be a nice height. Now, look at what happened. Only part of it showed up because it's a window in this wall, but the upper wall does not have a window in it. So there are different ways that you can approach it. I'm going to show you one quick way and then the better way. So the quick way is that you can create a hole in this upper wall. So if I go to the floor plan and I go to the second floor plan and I pop in an empty window here, and I'll just sort of do this approximately right. I'm going to deliberately do it a little bit off. Now we go to 3D, and you can see this empty window now. I could drag till it snaps, and now it's exactly lined up here, and then drag it. Actually, let's just take it and tell it to drag down to here, and perhaps extend it up a little bit further. So what I'm doing is I'm actually cutting a hole in this upper wall, and of course I might want to snap it to the top of the existing window there. Now it's sort of working. You can see, the window is there. The opening is not the same size, so if I go here and zoom in on it, whoops. Let's see if I select this and stretch it to there. Okay, so now maybe I'll just stretch it till it snaps in place. Now you can see it's sort of working. Maybe there's a little bit of adjustment for that, but really that's not the best solution because we've got down below, we've got the window, and God, that window is sticking out of the wall. Why is that? I don't know. I just popped it in here. Let's put it in reveal to wall face. Why is that? Say reveal. Here, model. Forget where we control this. Stud wall with siding. Let's just put it into a solid wall. It basically, because it didn't match the wall type. And then I can go in and say that I want it to be flush in here. So now if we go to 3D, working a little bit better. Okay, so, but really this is the first floor. If I go to the upper floor, we don't see the window. So here's another way that we can do it, is I can eyedrop this window. So hold down the Option or Alt key to get the eyedropper. Go up to the second floor and inject it into this window. All right, so now I have a second window. If I go to 3D, it'll look funny because what's happened is I've got this upper window here. Now, I've got two windows. The lower one is bumping into the wall. I'm just going to drag this down into position. And now we have two windows on top of each other. It looks great here. And if we rotate around in 3D, it'll look fine on the other side. And on the floor plan, we see we have the window here and a window there. However, notice that there are two different windows. They have different IDs, and they would show up in the schedule as two different windows. So one way that you can deal with this is that you can select this window here, this one on the upper story, and we can use Reshape, Explode into Current View. And what that'll do is it will create an empty opening. It'll explode the actual window. It'll create an empty opening and leave the line work in its place. So I'm saying just keep the drawing primitives, don't keep the original window. Looks much the same, but this is a line. That's another line. That's another line. These are all just lines here, but it looks much the same. In 3D, it looks much the same as well because there's only one window, but there is an empty opening up at the top. So there is an empty opening, a simple window opening up there. So this will work pretty well. And the actual, these guys here, let me just get rid of them. So we are, let's go down, go back up. That's the window. Oh, let's just turn off the window marker, no marker there. So if we wanted to, or we could, identify it separately. So we now have one real window, one opening. Now this is really one way to do it. It's not the best way. I'm going to show you another way that you can get this done. Let me just put a window in on this side, and this is what we'll do. We're going to put in a window, a similar window. I'll just eyedrop this window, and I'll pop it in here. And again, we have the same problem that it's bumping into that wall. Now I'm going to get rid of, I'm sorry, I have to finish putting in the window here. Now I'm going to go and get rid of this upper wall. Now why would I do that? Because what I'm going to do is take advantage of the fact that ArchiCAD can have walls that go up beyond one story. So I'll just stretch this up here. Now, of course, it's one wall, one window. So in 3D, it works just beautifully. Now, if I go to the floor plan, you'll see that if I turn off the trace and reference, there's nothing up here. Why? Because this wall that I stretched up is set to only show on the home story. And what we want to do is change it and say, you know what, that tall wall, I want to show on all relevant stories. Now when I say OK, it looks the same on the ground floor. And when I go up to the second floor, it also looks beautiful. So it's a single window in a single wall. And when I go to 3D, you can see this is one wall with one window. So that's the preferable solution, I would say, in most cases. And it cleans up, you can see right here in plan, even though this wall has its home on the, I guess doesn't show what its home story is here. If we open up the dialog box, it'll say the home story is on the lower story, one below where we currently are. Even though it lives there, it does clean up with these upper walls very nicely. So I think that's going to be the best way to do that. So I hope you found that interesting. Let's see, we have a question from Sherri Weaver about a Polygon prism for a tapered column and hiding it from the other side of the wall. Let's see, she basically got an object here that was prism, And so here you see a polygon prism shape, and she set it up, I believe, to be something like, here's the parameters, maybe it was set at the bottom. Let's see, structural dimensions here, number of sides 4. I haven't worked with this, but detailed upper boundings, top plane angle. Where do we do the actual sizes? Okay, so this is the height of it, these dimensions, details, center length. So if I take this up to be 10 feet, it's going to be taller. Okay, this is a circle radius, so let's just say that the upper one was 12 inches and this is 16 inches. I think maybe that's what she was doing for a tapered column. So even though it's called a circle, I guess because it has 4 sides, it's not a circle. If I were to make this 36 sides, then it's going to look like a rounded column. All right, so that's probably what it is. I'm not sure. Maybe she did have it as a circular. I don't have time to open up her dialogue or her message. So let's just say that I get that set up. We'll go down to the lower floor, and that I want to put this in here. Let's say show this layer, and then I'll pop in another one there. So if we look in 3D, we're going to see that I've got one sitting by itself, one sitting out bumping into the wall. She was asking about if I didn't want to show it on the other side. If we looked in 3D, we're going to see, of course, that this is poking out on the other side. So first of all, if this is actually just partially in here, then what we could do is change the display order. So bring the display order, say bring to front, and you can see that the wall is now obscuring that. And if I use the design menu, solid element operations, I could say that this element here is going to be the target and the wall is going to be the operator, and I just subtract. And now if I go to 3D, we're going to see that this element here actually is carved out. You can see that it's got a green line there. It actually is not showing the whole element. So it knows about the element, but it's been carved out. Now, if this were moved over so that it stuck out, now the wall is blocking this, but it's showing on the plan here, and in 3D, it will also show on the other side, which, of course, is not what she wants. So how would you deal with that? Well, what I might do is take another element like a slab and draw this here. This slab, I'll take up, I'll take it here. We'll take this as a simple component, and I'm just going to do it as a generic material and take it up to 10 feet or whatever it needs to be. And now if I go to 3D, we're going to see, okay, that slab is 10 foot tall, but I need to make its top height 10 feet. So now it's covering that up. But what I want to do is make this the operator, make this the target, and do a subtraction. And now you can see there was a subtle change here. Now if I take this one, this element, and hide its layer, and here's a great tip if you haven't worked with the Quick Layers palette, under the Window Palettes Quick Layers, you can select an element and hide that element's layer in a single step. So now you notice that there's nothing on this side, and yet this element is here. Why? Because it was cut off by the other element, and that that means that the 3D is going to work just fine. Now we're still seeing the issue here in terms of this on screen. There are different ways you could approach it, but the simplest would be to do a cover-up fill. So I'm going to just go to the fill tool. I'll just draw a box here, take that fill, go to the display order, bring to front. It now covers that up, and now I'll change it from a brick fill to an airspace or background fill here. and I'll turn off the outline, and now you can see it covers it up. It actually is still there, and you could choose, you can choose a color for that. If I put this into a color, you'll see how it really is still there, but I'm going to choose the screen or window background, -1 pen, for the background color, and now it will match regardless of my background. So it is an extra element that you have to maintain. If this thing moved around, you'd have to move this with it, but it generally is a quick way to get that result. So I think that's as much as I can handle for design and modeling. I have a question from Lou Bishop about a way to label walls. So he's saying that in some of his projects he needs to be able to quickly label the walls to indicate, different fireproofing or other conditions. So if I go to the label tool, and let's say that I want to point to this wall and indicate that this is, wall type 1, and perhaps we have an interior walls. Let's go to, some wall, I don't know, just some in between interior wall thing here, and we'll just do this. And he was doing party walls and double walls. Oh, look at that! It's covered up by the other that fill there. I want to bring this to the front, and that'll work. Now, if I want to label each of these walls automatically instead of having to manually do that, what I can do is to go into the label tool, and in the label tool, instead of focusing on the independent labels that are text, or could be symbols, these could be symbols, I'm going to say that when I choose to label walls, I'd like to give it a certain type of information. So the simplest thing you can do is say, I'd like to automatically tell or display the ID of the wall. So if you set the ID of the wall to be W1, W2, or PW for party wall, things like that, then it'll just show up. Now, what I'm going to do is say that when I do the wall tool, it will put the labels on a particular layer. So you choose this for each of these tools. So if you were labeling, for example, objects, they could be on another layer than the labels that you use for the wall tool. Now let me just say OK, and what happens if I then select this wall and go to the option here that says label it? You can see how instantly it gets some information. Now, what is that information about? Well, the wall has an ID. Depending upon whether you've thought about it or not, it may make no sense, but let's say we wanted to call this W2. So I'm just changing the settings for this wall, and the label automatically updates. So if I want to, I can go in and eyedrop this, and I can go and inject it into that. So now you can see how this wall is set up to also have a label. Now, I guess the ID, when you inject, when you use the eyedropper and syringe, it does not carry across the ID. I think that's deliberately something that Graphisoft turns off so that you can change the settings of an element without changing its ID. But if I were to, let's just say, delete this, delete it, let's say that I drop this wall and say I want to draw some more walls like this. Let's see, it's here. You can see, well, of course, we have this needs to go in front there. But anytime that I draw this, I can, if I draw another wall, it also is going to have that. Now, in fact, here is an issue where each time I'm drawing it, it's changing, it's incrementing this number. This you would be able to get away from, instead of having to eyedrop each time, you can go to the project let's see, it would be under work environment, selection and element information. Let's see, where is this, where it's going to increment this dialog boxes. Where is that? more options here. Assign new element ID to each new element. So if you turn that off, then if you eyedrop something, so let me just eyedrop this wall, and I'll pop in a wall here. There's W2, and if I go here, you can see all these W2s. So turn off that preference, and then you can do that. And you can also just eyedrop whatever you want. So if I want to draw another one, a wall like this type, set it up to be labeled, and then you can go in and fix that. Now we can have this where it's not putting in labels, and then you choose when to put in labels. So for example, I can go in and select these two walls, but not other ones, and go in and say label these elements, and you can see how they're going to be labeled. And I can go and say this is wall type 1. Sorry, I'm getting my Dropbox is bringing up stuff on screen, and I don't know how to turn that off. Somebody's working on stuff in the background that shared with me a file there. Okay, so I just change that to W1. You can see how that that works. Okay, so that's one way to do it. You can then set your style as well. So in terms of the label tool, whatever you set for the wall tool, and you can play around with it. What size is the font going to be? What type of arrowhead it's going to be? All of these sorts of things. In this case, it's a very tiny arrowhead, so it pretty much disappears. Is what was the default was set up there. So hopefully that answers Lou's question. I know Jim Sheridan had a similar question about pre-written notes, and essentially what you want to do is go in to the element. If it is something that is a note that's short, you can use the ID for it. If it's longer, then unfortunately you won't be able to do that, but you can use the label tool. Has an option for pre-written notes. So here's something that you may not know: is there's a default text here. So let's say that I type in party wall. Okay, that's some text that I might want to put in. Now that I've set that up, I could go point at something that says party wall. Point at another one, party wall. So I can do this over and over again, and you could have these things set up off to the side. So let me just drag a copy of this off to the side, and then drag another copy here. So I could have several of these, and each one of them might have something different. So this you can use in any view here. And so now if I eyedrop this, then I can go in and label these, and then eyedrop this, this one, and things like that. So by having some preset ones off to the side, you can eyedrop them and very quickly go and note. Put in annotations. That's different than actually having it attached to the element, but it certainly can speed up some work. In Master Template, we have it set up so that in elevations and sections, we have some typical notes that you might want to use, and you just eyedrop them and put them in, and you can customize them. It's sort of an example for what you can do in your own template. So I know that there are a bunch of questions people have typed in. I've had to really focus on just demonstrating stuff, so I haven't been able to look at it. And Mark writes, note to self, turn off Apple notifications before starting an event. Yeah, I'm not even quite sure under Dropbox if I can, how I change the preferences for Dropbox notifications. All right. Anyway, okay, so I think I have one more question. I have a bunch of questions that people sent in, but I have one more that I thought was pretty interesting, would appear to be complex on the surface of it, but it's actually pretty simple to work with. And that was a question from Gianluca Santorini, who sent me a PDF of a site survey, and he said, "How would you put this in?" And so what I'm going to do is, here's the file name, and I'm going to go back to ArchiCAD here, and I'll go and place this. So I'll go to external content, place external drawing, and as long as you're in a standard version of ArchiCAD, you can do this. If you're in the Start Edition, you would not be able to bring in a PDF directly. You'd have to save it as a JPEG or a graphic file and then copy and paste it or use the figure tool. But in standard ArchiCAD, you can place external drawings, PDFs, or DWG. And we have, so here is this, what was it called here? This is SP25, so let me go to my downloads. Did I put it in there? Where did I have that? Dropbox. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see if I can get this SP25. So we'll just say I want to search for SP25, and here it is. Where did I store it? It is in the mail downloads, and yeah, I guess I opened it directly from mail, but I'll just open it from here. I'll open this, and now I can place it. Now, it's obviously not in scale. Let's just look at the scale and say, all right, it is, I think there was something about scale 1 to 600. So one way that we could get this in scale is before I place it, let me just undo this, if I change my scale to 1 to 600. Now, we're working right now in feet and inches, so that's not a, well, I guess it's 1 inch equals 50 feet, so that works out. Now, if I were to go to the external content, place external drawing, and we probably had it in here, scrolling down to SP. Let's see. SP, come on. A lot of things in here. SP, there it is. Okay, say open. Drop it in. Okay, now it's much bigger in relationship to what I was drawing. And let's just measure. Let's switch our options, project preferences, working units to metric. And we'll say meters with 3 decimal places and meters here. And now, notice it says decimal degrees. We're going to switch this in a minute to degrees, minutes, seconds. In fact, actually, let's just switch that right now. And you can see that's an option. Or you can do surveyor's units where you have degrees, minutes, seconds, but with west, north, east, and south, you know, the various cardinal directions. In this case, I believe degrees, minutes, seconds is what we want because when I look here, the distances, it's a little hard to read, but we'll pick something that's easier. Okay, so here's one that's at an angle of 48 degrees 11, 10. So if I were to measure, just sort of draw from this point here over to here, you see the measure tool is reading it off, and it's saying that it is 41 degrees 56. So it's actually, you know, I'm just a hair off. No, it's 41 instead of 48. That's interesting. So that must be from measuring it from the 90 degrees going the other way. So 41 plus 48 is 90 there. And the distance is 51.4. And, well, I'm not quite sure what these distances are supposed to be. The 32 feet. Are these in 12.5? Are these, I think this distance 51, yeah, that makes 20, 35, 40. Okay, well, in any event, this is not to scale. So let's get it to scale first, and then we can talk about the degrees. So how would you get something to scale? Well, first of all, I can select this drawing, and I can resize it. I can either use the Edit menu, Reshape, Resize, which allows me to either type in a percentage that I want it to be resized, or do it graphically. When I do that, if I click on any 2 points, like here, it then says, well, how big do you want to make it? So it's actually whatever 2 points I click on, I can then type in the value. So what I really want to do is find something that I can read, hopefully. Here's the 138 feet, no, that's the degrees, 32.0. I'm assuming that's probably 32 meters. So let's just see, if I were to say resize, and go from this point here to that point here, and say that I want it to be a distance of 32, you can see how it got bigger. Now if I measure this from here to here, it's 32.16, so within a fraction if I move my mouse around. So what you generally want to do is take one of the longest measurements that you can, in other words, from one end of the site to the other, a long dimension, and get that precise, because then everything else is going to be more accurate. So I got this fairly accurate. You can see the north position here is indicating, I'm guessing that that's north straight up. The degrees here, let's just see, this is 35 degrees. Let me measure this here. So, I'm sorry, it's 210 degrees. It's reading 210, and the angle is 59. So what is that? That's not quite sure. Angle. Okay, so I had thought that this would be something that I'd be able to quickly assess, and I'm a little confused about the way that the 210 is being measured, because if you look here, here's 210 and here's 30, and these are obviously fairly parallel lines. So what is that indicating? And here, so I'm not quite sure what to make of it. I will say that if you wanted to draw lines, of a certain length, so if I go along here, and you wanted me to trace this, but actually type in the measurements. So you can see the distance. I can type in 35.69, and the angle here. Right now it's not indicating, it's not measuring, the 30, and it's 59. So I guess I'd have to subtract, because it seems like it's off of 90 there. So, but let's say that if I wanted that, so I'd say 90 minus that. So in fact, I might do 30 space 52 space 45. So instead of having to type degrees, minutes, seconds, you just put a space in, and then we would we would subtract this from 90. So okay, that would be all right. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this as an experiment here. If I draw this up at 90 and type in the distance, 35.69, and it's at 90, so I type in A to say I want to work on the angle, then I type in 30 space 52 space 45 and then a minus. There we go. That line is exactly on top of this point. So you may have to do the minus. Remember I did that earlier with the Marquee, and that was that I took a reference point and then I typed in something and did a minus in relationship to it. Now the 210, I'm going to guess that if I go down here, so let's say if I go down straight, type in 35.907, and then the angle 210, 52, 45 minus, and there we go, bingo. So here is a line, here is another line. These two lines are exactly on top of that. So you can basically position your cursor. You can either just type it in some cases it'll just read off exactly right, but if it's not, you may want to position yourself either straight north or straight south, and then type in the value and a minus, and it will then tell you how far off you are from that degree. So there are other ways that you can rotate your coordinate system, but in this case, because you can see this is 210 and that's 30, and they're really the same angles. The 52-45, they are parallel to each other. So these, you have to be prepared to either point down or point up, type in a value, and then hit the minus to go off of that. So, all right. So I see Daniel says, I've made a survey line object that accounts for this. Okay. So, Daniel, please send that to me by email. I'm not sure your last name, but it sounds like you're a sophisticated user I'm probably familiar with if I knew your last name. And I see Daniel wrote, Australian angles are measured clockwise from north, whereas ArchiCAD measures angles anti-clockwise. So what that's indicating is we have to do this relative offsetting here. Okay, so Rosie writes, might want to write a big note on the drawings you issue stating you're not responsible for the survey info. Absolutely. I'm obviously getting something very close to correct. It's going to be something that you'd have to either be very careful and take responsibility or explicitly disclaim responsibility. I would always prefer to get a DWG that would come in precisely to a PDF, but sometimes you don't have access to that, and maybe you're doing some initial planning and you just want to be able to get something pretty close, and so the PDF will give you as much as you can. Or all you have is a paper document, and it's up to you to create the first CAD drawing of the site. So, okay, so I know we've had lots of questions and comments here. We're a little over the hour mark. I have certainly can't possibly answer all the questions and respond to your comments, but I'm excited that we're off and running here with the ArchiCAD User Group. I have a couple of more announcements that I'd like to make, so I'm going to segue from this to, let's see, to here. So, we've been in this coaching hangout. I'm going to do this once a month. What do you think? Is this good? Did you get some benefit out of it? Let me know. Okay, so I know my feedback is a little delayed, so I'm not going to just wait, because I probably have to wait 30 seconds before I see what you type in. But let me know. Send me emails. Did you like this? Did you learn some things? I'd love to do this once a month for you. Now, there are two other announcements. One has to do with BIM services. So I think most of you know that Graphisoft created a revolutionary BIM server technology. It was introduced in ArchiCAD 13 and has been further refined over the last few years. It's also called Teamwork 2, and it's a flexible and robust framework for collaboration. Now, if you want to share ArchiCAD within an office, it's pretty easy to set up. You can just run the installer, and ArchiCAD will then just put in the BIM server, and you know, it takes a little bit of learning, but you can get it set up pretty quickly, and you don't really need to be a network expert. In most cases, it'll just install and be available. But if you want to be able to work from home, or have a team member or some team members work from a distant location, perhaps another part of town or another part of the world, it is very possible with the BIM server. However, it can be much more complex, and Graphisoft does not provide support for the BIM server to be connected remotely. Now, I was at a conference last October where Graphisoft talked about some future roadmap plans, and they mentioned something about a cloud server. So maybe they're going to be creating something that will make that easier for us. But right now, it's sort of tricky. And what I've been experimenting with is setting up a BIM server in the Amazon cloud. So we've all heard about cloud computing. Some of you know it a lot and some less. Basically, I've set up a BIM server running on some hardware that's off in some data center somewhere. But Amazon has great network connectivity. I mean, you know, that's part of what they're about, is having computer infrastructure that's really top-notch. So running that BIM server there, we can actually share it with users anywhere in the world, and the connection time and the speed of access is actually very good. So this is much easier for you if you wanted to use a BIM server and you don't want to set it up in your office, we're going to be making available this BIM server for you to share your project. Now, it'll have some security in the sense that you can say, I want these 3 people to access my project. They have passwords, and nobody else can see it. That's fine. I wouldn't call it bulletproof security, but it's good security. It's, you're not going to have anybody else messing around with your project. Now, I've been doing some tests. They've gone pretty well. I do want to do some further tests. I call it beta testing. If you're interested in being part of the early bird testing group, please email me, and you'll see that link here on the user group BIM services page. Eventually, this is something that I hope to set up as a service for ArchiCAD users. At this point, Graphisoft does not allow me to charge or anyone to charge for the BIM server, but we will be able to set up some type of a membership around that. So if you want to get access to our BIM server, you become a member, and I'll be setting it up quite affordably. So if you're interested in either using it later or you want to test it out in the next few weeks, then please contact me via email. Separate from that, BIM services, I've been doing a lot of remote stuff like this, as well as one-on-one training, as well as having consultants do the same thing with users. And I think we're getting busy enough as a community. In other words, ArchiCAD users, just like all other architects and designers, are having more work. And so that means that more of you are dealing with projects and having to get the work out. And even new users, of course, coming on, people getting excited about ArchiCAD, buying and investing in it. So there's a need for training and consulting, and I'd like to help fill that gap. Some of it I'll do, but I'm pretty busy, so I'm also looking for consultants who might do training on my behalf or a part of my company, my BIM services company. Actually, in this case, because I'm so busy, I'd like to find a partner for this. So if you are a senior level person who would like to help me get this rolling, I'm definitely interested in partnering up to make this happen. So you can contact me via email if you're interested in training or consulting, you want to receive it, you want help, or you're an expert and you want to offer it from time to time and get paid, or for the very small number out there who might consider being my partner. Please contact me via email. All right, the final thing that I want to announce today is a special offer for the Best Practices course. So we did some ArchiCAD coaching today. You saw the power of that. I love sharing this with people. I do the tutorials on YouTube. If you're not a member of the Best Practices course, you've been missing out on dozens of hours of very high quality instruction that will allow you to work much faster with ArchiCAD. So I'm not going to dwell on the course other than to say it's the best and most comprehensive training resource out there. I'm still developing it. It covers everything from ArchiCAD 10 on through 17, and I will keep developing more lessons to keep it current as we move forward. Part of the program is coaching. You get 6 months membership in my coaching program, where 3 times a month you have access to this type of a call, actually longer, because I go for an hour and a half, 2 hours answering questions. So you definitely can get my help. I also answer questions by email. Right now, if you enroll by March 31st, you'll get 12 months. So you'll get twice the amount of coaching. Plus, I'm going to throw in something I've never done before. I'll throw in an hour of one-on-one help. Now, I'm expecting that you'll want to look at the lessons first and do things on your own first, but when you really want some one-on-one help, you'll get an hour as part of this deal. And then one other thing that most people don't know about, but MySpeed is a great tool for watching video online faster. You can watch, in many cases, training videos 25% or 50% faster than normal speed and still absorb it. In fact, remember it better because you're sort of pushing yourself. This allows you to go through, 3 hours of training in perhaps 2 hours. Real great time saver. So all of these bonuses here, $377 of value. All you have to do is go to acbestpractices.com, scroll down here to read through the description, and click on the Add to Cart, and you'll end up with our secure shopping cart where you can see you get the Best Practices course, including the MySpeed software. You get my Basics course thrown in for free, the Quick Start course. You also get the coaching program for 12 months for free. It's $697, which I tell you is an absolute bargain, and later this year I'm going to be raising the price up because we have so much packed in there. If that's a stretch, you can break it up into 2 payments at no interest or 8 payments with some interest. So I invite you to join me, and over what we have about 1,300 people who are enrolled in the Best Practices course or the Quick Start course or one of my other specialty courses within this whole website. I'm not dealing with all 1,300 every day, but I do get lots of emails, and I'm helping lots of course members every week to succeed with ArchiCAD. So I'll be back in touch again by email with all of you, as well as posting on LinkedIn and ArchiCAD Talk to let you know the next developments. But we will be doing another ArchiCAD coaching in April, similar to this. I want to get your feedback, so just email me and say, did you like it? Do you want more? I'm really looking forward to doing this with you. Check out the user group website, archicadusergroup.com. Register there, and you can then add yourself. There's instructions on this for how you can add your own listing to the directory. Remember that you can't actually see the member list until you register. So once you register, then you can see that, and this list I'm sure is going to grow quickly, and you can set up to look for jobs. I've had so many inquiries just in the last couple of weeks, people saying, I'm located in Toronto and I want to find a firm that that uses ArchiCAD, or people in LA saying, we're getting real busy, we need staff, we need to hire people ASAP. So I just realized I got to set up a system here to help you all connect with each other, and something that I feel passionate about. I want you all to succeed. So I see questions or comments here. Great benefit, new info plus going over forgotten info that can be useful. Elton, yeah, thank you. Ron, great. A lot of thanks. What about doing full beginner hour or full advanced hour? Well, you know what? There's only so much that I can give away. If you want beginner training, sign up for the Quick Start course, which is part of the Best Practices course. If you want, the full resources that I have, sign up for the full Best Practices. What I'm going to do is once a month give an hour that will have some beginner, some advanced, and I hope you understand that I make my living through this. This is what I do, and so I try to provide as much as I can without charge so you can get to know me, and if you can't afford it, you've gotten some benefit, but if you have the money to make that investment, I can guarantee to you the Best Practices course is one of the best investments you'll ever have. I want to thank you all for joining me today. Please drop me a line with your feedback. I'll be back in touch soon. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching.